Welcome to Java, and thank you kindly for joining. It's October 16th, 2025, and it is Thursday. We had our Discord discussion last night. I would like to take a moment to do a special recognition. Thanks to Chain God for keeping that running for all of us, as well as to Stephanie and Reyes. Thank you guys so much for the support and everybody that's here. So, with this, we had a few discussions, some of it circling around power, the new plants that are growing. We're also going to talk about oil and water a little bit. We are in the 16th day of the United States government shutdown as that shifts things forward. Let's get started with what's going on in the markets. We've got a fear greed meter still in fear territory. It's down 31 from 32 yesterday. So kind of hovering here, kind of watching the risks, if you will, and how the money is flowing. Now let's start with the US 10-year yield. Now the 10-year yield is down 4.026. So as these rates come down, it's kind of showing money flowing into bonds. So if you're new here, that is a little bit of a slight off trade. And as money flows into bonds, in general, it flows out of equities or stocks. That being said, it looks like we've got a bit of a strong grain day up and to the right a little bit. We'll talk about that in a moment. Relative strength of the dollar is also decreasing. So as the relative purchasing strength of the dollar is down, that means can purchase less, more inflation, prices go up. So these two at the moment working opposite each other. And what we're seeing is the weakened dollar is the trade that is winning out, at least for this morning. So we've got cryptocurrencies are up, prices up. We've got equities are looking in the futures like it's going to open green for the morning market. We've got gold and silver definitely pulling back the cover on this. Both hit all-time highs. Again, gold solidly above that 4,200 per ounce price. So I'm going to talk about where you can keep an eye on that. I had a couple of questions regarding that. If you want to see true inflation, I would recommend you check out one of these sites. They're much better than government given numbers, which totally manipulated and miscalculated, in my opinion. So, the daily drivers, we're still in a headline and deal risk situation. What that means is at any moment, if there is announced a trade deal or something with China in particular, or with the war, could seriously throw these off. At the moment, no other major given factors. We are looking for, as I said, this green open this morning is slight. It's not strong, but it's definitely different than the past couple of days. Now, I don't expect this to last through tomorrow, but we'll talk a little bit about why. So we've got a flat line on good earnings from the banks. What does that mean? That means they, for the most part, were reporting really good earnings, strong positions, and going forward, their stocks still either hovered or even slightly declined. What this means is there's not a lot of confidence in the background of the economy. So, kind of a little bit more of a truth teller, even if you're saying that coming out the front that you're making a lot of good earnings. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about gold and precious metals, going on about gold. So, the spot price benchmark, if you will, like we watched the United States 10-year yield for the debt market. For metals, it's kitco.com. If you want to look at whether it's gold, silver, platinum, palladium, it also tells you whether the difference in price for the day, the movement, is due to stock trading, price going up or down, or whether it is the debasement trade, which is the weakness of the US dollar. So if US dollar gets weak, the metal price will appreciate, but it's not actually through purchasing. So it does distinguish that. It's an excellent page. Now we're watching the IWM, the Russell is coming into its time. Now these are small cap stocks. This is a rotation event coming out of the large caps, coming out of the Mag 7 and a bit out from other areas. So when these recessions, if you will, for lack of a better down direction for equities. The Russells and smaller caps tend to benefit from this. Now, today we're supposed to hear from Trump at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is very convenient timing because that's just prior to the last hour of trading for the day. So, depending on what he says regarding to trade, he could say something about wars, could say something about the metals markets, or even domestic policy. All of those would be market movers potentially. So, want to go a little bit more geopolitical global. Germany, which is the economy of the EU, is struggling to shake off their slump. This is according to their largest bank, central bank. So we've got also Germany reporting tenfold surge in refugee applications from Ukrainians. So this is a lot of public debt that is now increasing. So along with this, Merz is also calling for a little bit more consolidation between the EU because they are beginning to struggle. So what does that mean for the EU across the board? Possible weakness forward. Now, something very concerning I saw this morning that I'm watching, the Japan 10-year yield at 1.657. It has become very volatile the last day or two, and there is a little bit of a substructure with some remarks going on between not just the new prime minister, but other things that are going on with their debt. So again, on the radar, because their extreme volatility will have to be measured out. So that could affect the US market very significantly. Okay, our calendar, which is a calendar of really what we're not going to get, all of these things with the stars, are the reports that, due to the continued shutdown, will not be presented. So, in short, a lot of Fed speakers, we know how that goes. They are saying whatever it is that they need to be said to guide the market, Wall Street, to where they need it to go. So, looking at this again, we've got gold deals picking up again above that 4,200 number. So in the charts, it's showing oversold, but could it continue? Absolutely. In particular, with what's going on, we are watching weaknesses in the economy coming around. And how does this work out? We've been talking about this. Nestle is prime example. They're talking about a turnaround for the company, but this turnaround includes cutbacks, which is 16,000 people that are going to be laid off and no longer have their occupations coming after this cleanout. So moving from an actual economy that provides things, goods and services, we're now in a defense economy, which is all about the war. With this prime one, we've got Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, and Palantir in a lavish White House dinner to speak about funding. So this tells you who's on the in right now, if you want a little bit of an eye of whose companies might be doing well in the relatively near future. Not financial advice, just an insight to the political mass winds that come into these markets. We've got the United States economy. In the meantime, they're finally coming out, has lost momentum, as according to the Fed's Beige Book. Well, we've known this. They're finally putting this out. I find that the Fed is an absolute lagging indicator because they do work last. So, a couple of things I'd like to look forward into. And this is Tanker Trackers is reporting. This is something I think is of interest for a couple of the fronts. First, oil. Secondly, the war. Now, Iranian flagged tankers are now transmitting their direct locations for their oil tankers. This is the first time, 7.5 years. This is since all of the sanctions on Iranian oil. What does this mean? What could it possibly mean? First, it means that there's other deals going on with Iran in that they feel comfortable allowing their locations to be known. Secondly, could affect the sanctions. There's talks going on in the background. Third, and most importantly, that would affect the United States as far as markets is the oil industry. Now, we know in the background, and I've spoken about this before, by flooding the market with oil, suppressing oil prices. They are looking at crushing out Russia with the oil trade. This has made Russia significantly more wealthy and able to fund a good portion of their war, not just their war, but also mercenaries. So, with this, they are looking at possibly, with this, what this could possibly mean, flooding the oil industry. This would massively suppress the price further. We're probably talking about in the $50 range, sacrificing for a period of time the domestic shale producers because they have to produce at a much higher rate, putting them on hold for a bit so that they could take control of not just this and not just Russia, but vis a vis China with the trade through Russia. Now, the one background part of this is that China is increasing the oil trade over the northern route with India. However, India is a repurchaser mainly of Russian oil. So, in the background, we've got this complex geopolitical strategy to suppress oil prices and therefore increase the political bargaining power prior to the speech, prior to the talks that they're going to have the end of this month between Xi and Trump, China, and the United States. So we've got a lot more warnings coming out, and I think this is a little bit of a boon for cybersecurity firms as they're putting out more warnings. The blaming China doesn't matter who it is. But the problem is F5 is one of the main backbones of internet providers for the United States, and they have said that there is now a permanent breach, and they are saying that it's China. So this is a big problem. A few other things I want to bring up. Now, I'm going to skip to this because a lot of this is about energy. Putin is speaking at the Russian Energy Week at this moment in Moscow. I've got a lot of big players here, so this is going to be a very interesting play. We've got Trump confirming authorizing CIA operations in Venezuela. Now, a lot of this they're saying is crackdown on drug cartels. Now, it just happens to be also rich resources of oil, as well as major supplier now as of late to China. So, putting those all together of what's actually going on. Now, we've got again JP Morgan, Chase and Wells Fargo are issuing scam warnings, again, back to that cybersecurity play, as well as the security for your own good. We've got NATO are looking at purchasing more US arms for Ukraine. Now, the United States has stopped providing for free a good portion of these, so now they're calling NATO in to kind of fund this, and this is funneling money back through, again, defense sector. So we've got, again, more issues from this government shutdown. This is going to cut not just travel industry, but it's also going to play into the slowing down of the economy and could be another blame part. So the shutdown putting renewed spotlight on cracks in the United States aviation system. In particular, they're talking about the FAA. And a lot of this has to do with not just travel, but also this is, I believe, an incursion for if you will, integrating surveillance for different portions that come into this. There was, as of late, forced upgrade for a lot of these areas for not just 5G latest, but also this plays in with the TSA as well as passengers and all of this. So, large background to this. We've also got the FDIC. This is back to the banking, which underlies all of this is the currency that you use and how you will be controlled. The FDIC will allow private equity to bid for failed banks. Now, we've been speaking about banks closing, merging, otherwise going out of business. Private equity does not have these regulations or issues. They can very easily shift them over to this new CBDC or, pardon me, stablecoin or the new system that they've got for us. So I just want to bring these things up. I know that's quite a bit to throw at you. Prior to this morning, this is our last day of open trade. Prior to this afternoon, 3 o'clock, when President speaks. And then tomorrow is Friday. So it's going to be completely guided going into the weekend. It's going to be a big one tomorrow. So with all of this, wish you all a wonderful trading day. And until I see you again, resist.